Hi, Minghao.
Hey, hi,
Let's
Tess.
go. Yeah. So thank you for doing this. My channel Take Two is one where I explore many subjects, primarily technology related and career and so on. I'm expecting a lot of my audience to be really the tech folks or tech industry type of folks in there. But with you, I'm actually very interested to find out more about the financial planning aspects for people like me. Well, I'm hitting 55, right?
Okay.
So it's a CPF year. Clearly, that's an important milestone. But more generically, it's about talking, sharing some information to my audience, which are all, there could be some in the 50s and some in the 60s, but 40, 50s are probably where I think they'll be. So before we start, maybe you want to introduce yourself to us, and then some of the caveats you want to throw out there.
Okay, hi everyone. Minghao. I'm a financial advisor with Financial Alliance Private Limited, IFA, Independent Financial Advisory, licensed by MAS. And today I'm here in my personal capacity. So before we start the interview, maybe just a disclaimer that please do not take what I say here as financial advice. Always consult a professional financial advisor for something that is customized to your situation. However, I'm just going to share some general financial tips today based on what I've seen and what I know. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that. And I think it's such an important aspect to, you work for your entire life, and money is always not enough, right?
Yeah.
So the question there is really, how should you be thinking about as you move towards retirement, right? Most people are thinking of retirement in the 60s or whatever, but it may be too late by the time you get there, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, were you in your 40s, were you in your 50s? What are the key things, what are the key planning thoughts that you should put in place? Maybe you can walk us through your key thoughts around that front.
Okay, maybe before I go through the actual planning, right? Just to share a concept that recently learned. I call it the three enoughs lah. And
Three enoughs.
Yes, three enoughs, and I think that it is very relevant, especially for people in their 40s, if not 50s and 60s, definitely, right? Because so the first enough is, I think, something that many people will experience during their working life. If you haven't experienced it and you're in your 40s, I must say congratulations, because I think it's quite amazing. And the first enough is where you decide that I have enough of work.
Enough of your boss.
Enough of your boss, right?
Enough of your boss.
It could be due to your boss, it could be due to the leadership, it could be due to restructuring, many reasons, right? But at some point, most of us experience that feeling enough. Okay, I want to move on, I want to do something, right?
That's the first enough.
That's the first enough. And normally when you experience the first enough, you start asking yourself about the second enough, which is, do you have enough to either quit or to do a career switch or to do something, right?
Yeah, the second money.
Basically money no enough, then you go back to square one and you say, even
Suck
though
it
I
up.
have enough of work, I continue, right?
Suck it up because not enough.
Exactly. So the second no enough is the point, right?
Okay.
And I think this is the thing that I try to help people with, which is try to achieve financial independence, where you have freedom to choose, and I believe with freedom come opportunities.
Of course, always,
right? So basically, try to achieve the second enough, and then in my advice to people for retirement planning, I always tell people, it's great now you have enough to retire, you have enough to stop work if you choose to, and then you need to think about, do you have enough to do when you eventually retire?
So the third enough is about keeping yourself purposefully, I guess, not employed, but purposefully occupied, right?
Yes.
So the third enough is about purpose in life, basically, right? Or
having
things
enough,
that meaning, right?
Exactly. Enough to do, enough to occupy yourself, enough to feel like, okay, I'm having a good time, right? Because honestly, I've seen people who have enough money. In fact, I personally think that most Singaporeans actually have more than enough.
Yeah.
Because they have never stopped to think whether they have enough. But by the time they decide to stop, they have more than enough, but the problem is they no longer have enough things to do, right? Because they didn't build hobbies, they didn't build friendships, they didn't do all those things when they were younger.
So my idea is this, right? It takes about 10 years to build the third enough. And when you are going in parallel, this is kind of like where you want to be when you're retired. This is where you're working now. You can't just switch like that. At the point of you kind of have to build it up over time. And when you're ready to kind of switch down your work, you must make sure that your third enough has already been built over the years.
Yes.
Right? If you're going to volunteer,
Yep.
volunteer. And volunteer over the years gives you credibility and all kinds of experiences. And if you want to have a side hustle, maybe you want to start teaching flower arrangement.
Yeah.
You must have some skills by the time you retire. You can't just start from scratch.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way, right? Yeah.
Even a hobby like a sport, right? Like
Yeah.
I know of friends who like used to play. I play squash, right? So I have friends who used to play squash when they were younger, right?
Yeah.
And then when they get older, like some of them are in their 50s, and I said, hey, why don't you start picking up squash again? And they look at me and I'm like, sorry bro, my knees can't take it anymore, right? Because
or
I
travel.
or traveling, right?
Yeah.
Like they were like, I can't do a lot of the things
Back
that I
pain,
want to do
yeah.
because I have all these issues, right? Because they did not keep up with the sport when they were younger. So something to think about, right?
Okay, so the three enoughs.
Yeah,
Very important.
Yes.
Okay, so then the next part, maybe we talk about planning, right?
Okay.
What are the sort of key things that you want to give an anchor around? What are the things?
So
that you plan?
probably the first and the most important part, I think, it's really protection to ensure that your life is stable, right? If any of
Something happened.
you're
life
contingencies, right? All the stuff that life throws
So
at you.
insurance, is that what you mean?
Insurance protection is what I mean. And I think hospitalization plan, which what most Singaporeans know as integrated shield plans.
Yeah.
It's probably the most
Integrated
common
shield. Yeah.
one. Yeah. So all Singaporeans and PRs are automatically
On it.
on the MediShield Life.
Yeah.
So that's the one that the government puts everyone on. So you definitely have that basic level of medical care.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes people are looking for something more. They are looking for private hospital coverage. They are looking for the ability to choose their doctors, even if they are in the public system, right? So that's something that to consider. And okay, maybe an interesting thing which I often hear from my clients is many of them are working in good jobs with MNCs in tech companies, right?
Coverage is very good.
Coverage is very good. Employee benefits excellent, right? In fact, honestly, many times they are better than what some of the private shield plans provide. But I always tell my clients that okay, so there's two things that you need to consider. First is the benefits only last as long as you are with the company. Employed. It ends the day you leave the company. And even if you are lucky enough to escape retrenchment, restructuring, nobody escapes retirement. At some point you will retire, and most of the time, if it could be 60s and 50s, and the problem at that point in time where many of them say that when I leave then I will get a plan, right? Because it doesn't make
60 or 62
exactly because it doesn't make sense. They say it doesn't make sense to double insure. Which the problem lies in the fact that people develop illnesses and pre-existing conditions as you get older, right? So it could be things like a very simple non-cancerous tumor, right? That is maybe in your nose or in some part of the body where with that condition, if you applied for a plan when you are in your 50s or 60s,
it becomes very expensive.
Excluded. Okay.
Excluded.
So you, in fact, I would say if it's expensive,
still okay.
At least okay, right? You can still be covered. The problem is when you're excluded. So when you're excluded, it means that, the insurer says that you pay for your premiums, the same as somebody your same age, but anything related to that body part, I'm not covering. It's excluded.
So the insurance company can actually exclude things that are on the surface.
Yes.
If you are aware of it and it's already surfaced before in your previous claim, then they can exclude it.
In fact, I wouldn't even say a previous claim. In fact, if you just visited a doctor, you didn't even make a claim on it, but it's a known condition, right?
They will mark it.
They will mark it. In fact, you have to declare. And even if you don't, in Singapore's medical system, everything is electronic. So
that's right.
Honestly, there's
no way
you can get out of it. So
okay, so it becomes a non-insurable part.
Exactly.
At 58, 55, 60 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so now you have a problem because if something does develop from there, you're on your own.
Exactly. And
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I would always say that you always want to avoid catastrophic financial situations where
you wipe out your
where you wipe
savings,
out, right? Yeah. So that is one important portion.
Okay.
Yeah. The second one, which I think it's important, but perhaps not as important as hospitalization plan, is probably a critical illness plan that helps pay out a lump sum.
Yeah.
In a sense, so that when you end up with perhaps Six-figure,
something
cancer,
is, yeah.
or a critical illness like a heart attack, where it may incur a six-figure
Operation.
out of pocket sum, right? Even though you have an excellent hospitalization plan, right? I'm not sure whether you're aware. I mean, in the last year, I mean, there were some changes. The cancer drug list was introduced.
Yep.
And stuff. So
Some list dropped
yeah,
off.
basically, you it's
Some
no
of the
long-
drugs are dropped off. Yeah.
yeah, some of the drugs, if your doctor recommends it and it's off the list, you essentially have to come out of pocket.
Yeah.
So things like that, I say if you have a critical illness plan, it pays out a certain amount,
At least cover that.
and that in a sense helps to defray that huge cost, and it doesn't eat into your retirement plan, right? Because you didn't plan to spend a couple. 100,000 on something that was, I guess, unexpected.
Yeah, it doesn't wipe out basically.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not in a game over wipe out situation.
Yeah. So
okay,
these are the two most, I would say, the most important ones.
Okay, cool. So first one is get yourself into the plan earlier so that you don't have this exclusive exclusion.
Exclusions, yeah.
The other one is just CI, basically,
CI,
critical illness. Okay, cool. That's a good one on protection. Move on to the next point. Would that be a retirement planning? Maybe?
Yeah, I would say that the next thing that everybody needs to do is retirement planning, because everybody gets there someday, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure that when the time comes, you're ready for it. You have enough for it.
How do you think about retirement planning? How do you go about thinking about it? I mean, assuming somebody in their 40s, 45, let's say, thinking that they'll work another 15 years or so, let's see.
So I generally tell people that you need to take a holistic look at it. If you sit down and do it, to me, with a professional, essentially you will look at your lifetime cash flow modeling.
Yep.
And
you know how much you're spending per month, per year.
You have to, right? So first you have to take ownership and take account of your expenses. Figure out like which expenses will last throughout your whole life.
Which one
yeah, and maybe which are the ones that maybe by the time you turn into your 50s and 60s,
it's gone.
It's gone. For example, mortgage,
car,
maybe. Some
maybe.
people will say they want to drive until as late as possible, but I say, the latest you probably go till
70,
80, some people tell me
80,
80, 85. I'm like, okay, but so you could plan for a car till then, right? And then maybe your kids, whether or not you want to send them overseas, local studies.
How much you have to spend. So it's a cash flow analysis basically.
It's a cash flow analysis, exactly, right? It's a cash flow analysis, and then of course your expenses is what comes out, and then you got to put in all your passive income, right? You got to take into account your CPF Life. You got to take into account your SRS if you have already started on them.
When can you take out your SRS now?
Essentially, you can take out your SRS from the retirement age at the point that you opened your SRS account.
Oh.
Today, the retirement age is 63. Okay. So if a person decides today that I'll set up an SRS account, you can withdraw from 63.
Okay.
I started my account when retirement age was 62. So for me, it's 62.
So it is when the law of retirement, it applies to when the account is open.
When the account is open, exactly.
Cool.
So you will know what is it.
So now it's 63.
Now it's 63. And that's the earliest. If you decide that you have more than enough passive income and you don't need it, you can always delay, right?
Okay. So back to the retirement planning. So cash flow. Any other way of thinking about it is basic cash flow, and that's kind of it.
I would say cash flow is the most comprehensive way of retirement planning. I know of other methods. For example, some people use a goals base, right? So they take something very simple, like for example, I think when I retire, I will need $7,000 a month.
Right.
And then you say, okay, maybe I'm retiring at 65. I plan till 95.
Inflation adjusted, right?
Yeah, 30 years. I use some inflation,
yeah.
and I use a formula and I essentially calculate the capital sum I need at a point of retirement.
Okay.
Normally that comes up to $1-2 million, and then you essentially draw down.
I think Singaporeans typically will need about a couple of million per person, I think, right?
Yes, of course,
Roughly.
depending on your lifestyle.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
But it can be lower depending on how
definitely can be
many
lower.
holidays you take. And
I mean, of course, our government thinks that the basic minimum is your CPF Life lah, right? And that is about what, 1,500 a month. Honestly, a lot of Singaporeans will tell you
that's not the average.
It's not going to work out. So definitely, I would say.
But of course, the government also expect you to have your own. So
I mean,
that would be like basic.
The government has never said that that's good enough. They always say it's good enough for basic, right? So it depends on your understanding of basic.
Okay. So planning, cash flow analysis. Sit down with a professional, go through, think through, and then at least have a projection of what you need from the point you retire, maybe from all the way until how long you expect to live, and
I mean,
so on and so forth.
your to me, when you do that that thing, you definitely need to take into account rising shield plan
Yeah.
costs. You definitely need to take account your CPF life. You definitely need to take into account inflation.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the
Basic lah.
basics, right?
Yeah.
Which and then of course your income, right? If you have rental property, you should cater for them.
Yep.
Those should cater for rising inflation as well, because naturally rentals go up as well.
Got it.
So if do a comprehensive one, don't just do a very
Partial.
Yeah, because the problem
Yeah.
when the rubber hits the road, right?
Yeah.
When you're retiring and then you're
Very
like,
partial.
actually
Miss.
7,000 a month doesn't make
Not
sense,
enough.
right? Because
I
I
need
didn't
10.
I didn't do a thorough look at my
Analysis,
expenses.
yeah.
Yeah. So do a thorough one and give yourself that peace of mind that you're ready for it.
Yeah. Well, I think the opposite is also true. Meaning, you may have not planned and you keep thinking it's not enough, and you work until to the ground too. So you know, I think sometimes you want to do a planning earlier.
Yeah.
Then actually you may know actually you could retire earlier. Your objective has been met.
Yes.
And if you're third enough, which is the purposeful activities that you put in place, then maybe you can shave off a few years of work. You know?
Yeah, you
That
never
is
know till
possible,
you
right?
sit
Yeah.
down and
That's
you
true.
do the planning. And if you realize that, hey, actually I may be able to retire much earlier than I thought, then the next step to do is to be disciplined and go through that compounding process to retire at the age that you desire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next part, CPF. Right?
Okay.
Very important. I'm 55, so CPF.
Okay.
So the question is, what are the considerations? Even for some of the audience, they may be in the 40s or whatever, you know, what is CPF? What are the thoughts around CPF basically?
Okay, maybe we start off with the some of the changes that affects somebody who's 55.
Yep.
I think the latest change that was announced was that there is no more special account
Yep. No
after
SA. Yep.
55, and I think many people were banking on
that.
They used to call it CPF shielding, right?
Because of the interest.
Because it was 4%, almost guaranteed, right? Pretty much the floor was 4%, and many people were happy with a 4% guaranteed returns, because even now with all the interest rates cut, you realize that a year ago you could easily get a 4% maybe FD or some kind of savings. Now you're looking at about 3, right?
Yeah.
And potentially it may even drop even further.
I think it'll drop.
So without that 4%, I think people need to start looking at where to get better returns, because if you leave it in the CPF, you're looking at 2.5.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I think the next part that people need to consider is at 55, should you go for FRS, which is the big full retirement sum, or for some people who prefer to take out more cash, they can opt for basic retirement sum and pledge their property. And for people who feel that actually I have more than enough of my own savings that I don't need to withdraw, you can choose to go up to ERS, which from now it's 1.5 times of FRS.
Yeah.
From next year onwards, when SA is closed, you can go up to double your full retirement sum.
Okay, so maybe you want to break that down a little bit. All the FRS, ERS, what are the terms and what it means? Just very briefly.
So the full retirement sum today,
FRS?
it's FRS. It's about 205,800.
Yep.
The BRS, which is the basic retirement sum, is essentially half of the FRS.
Okay.
And today the ERS, which stands for Enhanced Retirement Sum, it's 1.5 times of your 1.5 times of your FRS, or 3 times your BRS.
Okay.
So basically, when you have this amount that you choose to put aside at age 55, it accumulates in the retirement account for 10 years at a 4% interest rate until the age of 65. At that point, you can choose to start to receive your CPF life payouts.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is monthly payout.
Which is a monthly payout. Of course, at that point in time, at 65, you choose to take it out. You can decide whether you want a standard plan, an escalating plan that increases over 2% a year, or you just want a standard which pays you a flat amount till you pass on. You can basically decide, or you can choose to leave it in the. If you don't do anything, basically the CPF will not pay you out. CPF life will not pay out, and
They just compound.
Yeah, you get extra 7% payout a year, right? So if your payout was meant to be 1,005, you get 7% more per year
Right.
that you delay, and if you delay all the way until 70, you will get 35% more payouts.
Okay.
And when you get to 70, CPF will pay you regardless of whether you tell them anything. That is the age they will pay out.
So my view listening to you is
Yeah.
all very, very complicated.
Okay.
I can understand what each of these payout and options are.
Yeah.
But for even someone who is, in the financial services, I find
Yeah.
that this is very, very complex.
Mm.
So I almost have to sit down and go through and look at the actual amount and
Yes.
decide what I'm going to do. Now, when do I have to decide these activities?
Okay, so at 55, the government CPF will automatically take off the FRS sum from whatever you have in your special account.
Yeah.
If not, they will top it up with, if you have in your ordinary account, to make up the FRS.
Yeah.
If you want to only go to BRS, you need to write in to pledge, right?
So you have to pledge.
You have to pledge your property.
Because your property, yeah.
Yes. If not, you are default FRS.
Okay.
And then if you say, I want to go FRS, I want to make the decision right there at 55, then you can contribute up to
Whatever the amount.
whatever ERS is, right? But something I always tell people is, it is pretty much almost a one-way street, where once you decide you want to go on the ERS and CPF Life starts paying out, you can't decide, for example, when you
Change your mind.
Yeah, you can't change your mind. You can't okay, I think I would like to spend more money now that I'm in my 60s, right? 65 to 70. Can I take more out to spend, and then next time I take less? The sad thing is, no, it's a annuity. You basically get paid.
You've already you've given out your money already, actually.
Yeah,
it's changed to annuity.
It's changed into a monthly payout, right?
Yeah.
And
you can't change your plan.
yeah, and that is something that to really consider if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And something that many people like to ask me is like, hey, so is it worth it or not? Is it a good deal? To CPF credit, CPF Life is the best annuity plan you can get. Because in the market, right? If you want to buy an annuity plan because you want to assure that you get a payout until you die, CPF Life is the best.
Yeah, no one else does it better.
No one else does it better, right?
Okay, kudos to CPF.
Yeah, obviously it's non-profit, right? It's meant to serve Singaporeans, so it's definitely the best. But then, of course, it's going to pay you till you die, so it must make financial sense. And so
it's also a bet how long you live, basically.
Exactly.
In a way.
So I kind of did a calculation, right? And pretty much, if you live till 85, you are looking at getting a return of maybe about 3.75% type of return.
Yeah.
But if you go till 90, you go to like 95, then you're talking about more than 4 point something percent return. And if you go, of course, you live past the center.
So basically,
right?
if you think you're going to live long, then go for it.
Exactly. If you think you're going to live long, it will definitely be worth your while.
Right.
I don't know, like individual, right? Based on your family, what you think, based on your habits, how much alcohol, how much unhealthy food you take. Take those for Penang food all the time.
All the time.
You have to make that assessment, right? Yeah, make that assessment.
Anyway, the last time you can do a punt on the horse was last Saturday, so yeah.
Yes.
But this you can still do a punt, so yes.
Yes.
Alright, so any other thing about CPF that we should be thinking about? Other than there are other things that SRS, maybe you want to talk about the other aspects of CPF.
So SRS is actually a scheme by actually MOF, right? So if you look, MOF came out with this scheme to allow people to enhance their retirement planning. So essentially, it is a scheme that allows you to contribute in. Like you mentioned earlier, the trade-off is you put the money in and you promise to only take it out when you hit the retirement age at the point of account opening. If you take it out any earlier, you will pay a penalty for that, and of course you'll be taxed on the money you withdraw.
Because it's meant to be a tax deductible.
Exactly. So, but if you manage to stay the course, right, and use it only for retirement, then you essentially enjoy the tax savings. That
could be substantial for some people.
Yeah, so
right? Because if you're on a 19% bracket, you are saving 90%.
So if you are at the high income bracket, you save like 18% of taxes.
So basically, how to make 19% a year on the money, right? It's tough.
Exactly.
So unless you make more than that, it's a better deal.
And it's the compounding, right? So I was just doing some calculations for some of my clients who obviously these were people who actually started late. So they were like started at maybe 40, 48. So let's say they did it for 15 years.
Yeah.
Actually, when they hit 63, they put in the 15,003
Per
a
year.
year. They enjoy the tax savings. At the end of 15 years, with compounding of about 6%, you're looking at about 350,000, right?
Right.
Which
Oh,
is
it's sizable amount.
It's a sizable amount.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
insignificant. And the flip side is if you did not contribute into SRS, essentially out of that 15,300, you'll be paying 18% taxes every year. And assuming that the remainder you also invested it for your retirement,
Yeah.
You would only end up with about 280,000.
Almost
Seven-
150, 170.
No, almost about 70,000.
70,000. Yeah, well, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, about 70,000, right? And the only delta between the two is one of it you contributed to your SRS, and the other one you decided that I do not want to contribute to SRS. So if you do not already know about the scheme, or if you have not already utilized this tax savings, I would say privilege that is extended to you, definitely do it.
Do use it.
Even for foreigners, you can contribute up to 35,700 at the moment because you don't enjoy CPF savings.
So they allow a bigger sum.
Yes, because
Same tax deductible.
yes, same tax deductible, and I think the difference is that for Singaporeans, you because of CPF,
Yeah.
you already contribute to CPF and enjoy the tax savings from there. Singaporeans and PRs, but for foreigners, you don't have CPF, but you get to contribute more SRS.
Okay.
So please.
It's more than
please do
double
it.
actually.
Yes,
Slightly more than
it's
double, 35K.
yeah,
50
slightly
to
more than double.
35K.
Yep.
Okay, alright. So a note on SRS, that's useful actually. What about any other withholding? Okay, we talked about the withholding options on CPF.
Yeah.
Anything on CPF? No, I think we covered.
I think pretty much we covered the 55 decisions on ERS, FRS, VRS.
Do nothing FRS.
So I think the decisions on whether or not to delay, whether or not to draw at 65, I think individuals have to look at your situation at that point in time, right?
That's why you need a
decide.
financial advisor.
I mean,
and sit down and plan on your own.
Sit down and plan it, and maybe he can tell you the pros and cons and which one makes more sense.
Think a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Next one on planning beyond this life. We talk about maybe will and so on, right?
Yeah. So I think when you're done with planning for your protection, you're done with your retirement planning.
Yes.
Then I guess the next question is legacy planning.
Yeah.
I generally strongly advise everyone to. I think everyone generally would like to dictate what happens to your
Assets
and estate when you pass on.
Yeah.
And instead, I mean, of course, I like to tell people everybody has a will. Whether you actually
do it or not.
wrote one, you have one because the government has wrote a default will for you, right?
Yes.
And it's called basically intestacy, where there is a certain fixed division of assets if you have child, you have spouse, you have parents, and all that, right? So there is already a will by default written for everyone. But if you want to decide how you want to distribute your assets, you definitely should write a will. For people with young kids, minors, I strongly encourage you to do a will so that you can identify who will be the guardian of your child if
very important.
touch wood, both parents happen to pass on at the same time. Right? So that is something that I find important. A lasting power of attorney is LPA, right? The next thing that is very important because when you're unable to make decisions for yourself, you want to assign that
somebody you trust.
With that power. If you do not do a LPA while you are still able and lucid, your family has to go to the court to
much more trouble,
cost much more money. And I always tell people when your family is probably grieving and feeling upset, the last thing you want to do is to
put them through
all these admin
bad
hurdles,
planning,
right?
Yeah.
And all because you didn't think about it, or rather maybe you knew about it, right? But you just didn't get down to doing it.
Yeah. Okay, maybe some specific action. Where can they go to get a will done? Where can they do a LPA? Any recommendation, or maybe not recommendation, but
maybe for an LPA
or news information sites.
Yeah, you could go to the OPG, Office of Public Guardian. I think currently I'm not sure whether they still have it by the time you see this podcast, but definitely they.
This government service.
Oh, it's a government service. So the
OPG.
government is encouraging people to get your LPA done.
Yeah.
pretty much they have it online. You can do everything online, get your witnesses to witness it online, and then you just need to go to either a doctor, a lawyer to essentially get it endorsed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That you're still sound mind and that's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's for the LPA, right? For the will,
OPG.
you could go to a certified estate planner.
Yep.
You can go to somebody who's able to write a will.
Yep.
A common misconception everybody has is you need to go to a lawyer, and that is not.
There's actually will, right?
There's will writers. In fact, to blow my own trumpet, I'm a certified will plan writer, and you essentially in fact the thing is that perhaps you may want to visit a financial planner for this because honestly, a will it's more than just the legal language and the legalese. It's actually a planning. You want to know whether or not you have sufficient. You want to know whether or not your family will be well taken care of. You don't want to give your 18-year-old kid a $2 million lump sum.
Yeah.
Where
be gone in like 1 year.
Yeah, I mean there are
Squandered is the word.
many
Yeah.
cases of things like that happening. So you probably want to think
Well, it's
about
bad planning and it costs.
if you could, you probably want to do something that can ensure that they are
long term.
they're well taken care of. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I think we covered our ground from protection to retirement planning to CPF and the will and LPA. Maybe you want to share where they can reach you, any of the audience that want to come talk to you, and so on. You have a website, right?
Yeah.
engage.fa.com.sg at Minghao.
Yeah.
Slash Minghao.
Yep.
We'll put a link on the description below.
Yeah. Or you can just always connect with me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Liao Minghao. Basically.
Again, I'll put a
financial
link.
advisor.
I'll put a link as well.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for the chat. I think it's extremely useful, at least to just reset basic idea and hopefully kick off a series of necessary action early enough so that we can all enjoy our retirement without the stress.
Yeah, I mean, I think the objective at the end of the day is to have a comfortable and dignified retirement, and I believe it's definitely attainable.
Yeah.
If you get down to it early.
Well, thank you for last words on that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Bye.